Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So it's an honor today to have on the channel Chris from the Preparedmind 101, who's going to be answering some questions about all things survival and emergency preparedness. Let's get to it. If you're not familiar with the Preparedmind 101's channel, I would be surprised if you consider yourself a prepper or survivalist. Probably one of the larger gear review channels on YouTube. I particularly like his most recent video where he talks about the 95-5 distinction, how your preps and your survival gear should serve some kind of function in the 95 to 99% of circumstances where they're not going to be necessarily needed to ensure your survival. So if you haven't subscribed to the Preparedmind 101 yet, I would encourage you to do so. If you're not familiar with the format that I use to do these interviews, what I like to do is send the interviewees the questions in advance so that they can formulate the responses and videotape themselves with those responses. And this provides them the time to make a response which is going to be concise and to their liking, so that they're not caught off guard by the questions I'm asking. And I just find it's a way to get more thorough, in-depth responses from people. So without further ado, let's get to it.
Hey everybody, it's Chris from Preparedmind 101. I'm here on Canadian Prepper's channel to answer some of his interview questions that he sent me.
So what did you do before becoming the Preparedmind 101?
All right, well, I did a bunch of things, but let's stick with the applicable stuff. That's generally what people ask, because every once in a while you get, a smart aleck or something that says, show me your resume. What right do you have to be out there telling people about how to prepare and all that? What TV show are you on? Sorry, TV shows are not a resume item. People get picked on TV shows based on, a lot of different things. Following, a lot of it is character. And a lot of people get big off TV and then they really start to learn stuff. So TV, that doesn't matter. Me personally, I was honorably discharged, 10-year United States Navy veteran. I was a damage controlman, second-class petty officer. My qualifications ran from every single emergency team on the ship, as high as duty fire marshal and ship's fire marshal if we were in port somewhere. And basically what the ship's fire marshal is fire breaks out, some sort of flooding emergency or something like that, that guy's in charge. The only person that can override the fire marshal is the commanding officer. So U.S. Navy damage control is basically a whole lot of mass conflagration, processing, operating under pressure, being able to think quickly, act quickly, process all the risks, process all the problems, and be able to quickly and concisely direct other people in order to do what they need to do to fix the problem. That is what helped me. That's the experience I have that directly helped me with what I do, as far as being a preparedness guy, a forward thinker, thinking about things before it happens. This year, I'm coming back around to the preparedness stuff, the urban stuff, the 95% stuff, not the 5% stuff, which is going off into the woods. That was my original intention. I got sucked into the woods, like everybody seems to do, because it is fun, and I do go out there and do it, and I enjoy it. But if you want to be of use, you gotta talk about preparing for the 95, not the 5. And I did other things. The thing I did right before it was I was in pest control. I was a machinist for several years and lost my position, waited for it to come back, did not come back, and it's like, oh crap, I better come up with something really quick. So I got my license to be a pest control guy, and I basically rode that out until I grew my channel big enough to do it full time.
Would you consider yourself a prepper or a survivalist? And if so, would you consider yourself a micro prepper, a meso prepper, or a macro prepper? If you're not familiar with what that is, you can click the link here and go check out that video that I did on micro, meso, and macro preppers.
I looked at these micro, meso. I don't really think I fall into any really one of them. A lot of prepping these days is about stockpiling. It's like, well, I'm gonna have all these things that I'm used to having for the time to when I can no longer get them. And I think one of the big things, the baselines for people getting into prepping, is fear of death, fear of it ending. So you got to have some sort of spiritual center to hold on to and understand that you're in this game to get as far as you can, but you're not going to win. You can't beat the game. The game always wins. So I kind of just stick to problem solving. And because if I put too much effort and money into all this storable food, well, I got to put it someplace. And what if that place that I put it burns down? Or what if I have to evacuate it? Or what if mobs take it all away? And there's the what if ninjas have got an answer for everything, but I can what if right back at you. Murphy's Law will always get you. So coming a little bit closer inward, just your personal will to live, your drive, your ability to problem solve, the tools. Do you know what to do with the tools? What kind of skills do you have? How do you know how to deal with people? That sort of thing over, I'm building my electrical grid, or I got solar power, or I'm ready for an EMP, or this, that. I'm sorry, I just don't get into those things. At some point, you have to lose the game. So I think that's what a lot of that stuff really boils down to, is people are afraid of that end of the game.
What is your biggest pet peeve on YouTube?
Well, this is kind of a dangerous question because on one hand, I've got a lot of pet peeves. On the other hand, the stuff that I do, I read books like Power of the Subconscious Mind, and I have intimate understanding of the things that we think about, we help to bring about. So if you're a YouTuber, you notice that if you put too much attention on trolls and negativity, suddenly you got a lot more of it. Likewise, complaining is the #1 bad habit that everybody has, and they don't understand how that affects their circumstances. So I try not to complain so much. I highly recommend a book called A Complaint-Free World by William Bowden if you want to get into the subconscious mind stuff and just make your overall situation better. But for the sake of the question, let me pick one thing as pertains to my genre. And I didn't really realize this until it happened to me. And then I realized that I've been guilty of this myself in the past. And that's part of just having time on YouTube, is learning and growing and understanding different points at where you screwed up and helping people so they don't make the same mistakes. And that pet peeve would be people using a product above and beyond its intended purpose or outside of its intended use and judging it based on that misuse. Let me give you an example. Like I said, I didn't notice it till it happened to me, and then I realized that I'd done it myself before. Jessica X. A lot of people know about the controversy, the early reviews of Jessica X. Everybody like, oh, it hurts my hand, and so on and so forth. And I got upset, and I'm like, I don't understand it. It's not happening to me. I'm trying, I'm beating the crap out of it. If there's a problem, I want to address it. I couldn't get it to happen to me. Half the people said it happened, half the people didn't. And then one day I was watching a review and it clicked. And I went back and watched all the other reviews in which people were saying it pinched my pinky or hurt my hand. What did they all have in common? What they all had in common was, this is a big chopping knife, so what they wanted to do was go to like a down tree or something like that. Some big thing that you would never chop with a large knife. And they're just chopping away and seeing how much you can chop with it. And they're like, this is kind of hurting my hand. And it's like, light bulb. It's like, I've done that before. It's a dumb test. That's why I stopped doing it, because when you're chopping like that, that's something you would never go after with that sort of thing. So why do it? But if you try to go after something like that, you start to get, shock and wear, and it just wears you down. Sometimes we as testers can inadvertently make something look bad with our own skills or lack thereof. Therefore, I've taken a strong point at looking at myself, and I encourage other people in my genre to do the same. And if you're going out and testing an item, don't try to test beyond your skill level. So because people that are just going on YouTube and looking and just don't know any better, they're like, wow, that didn't work very well. And people just assume that the guys on YouTube have all the skills and that we're great at everything. And the truth is, nobody is. So you can't really stop the viewer end of it. So what we can do on the YouTube presenter of it is be very careful about testing things outside of their intended purpose, or testing things at stuff with skills that we're not that great at. And if it is the case, then we want to make a clear note that I'm going above and beyond what this is intended for, or I'm honestly not that good at this, but I'm going to give it a shot. So that would be a constructive pet peeve.
What is the number one reason, do you think, that YouTube channels fail?
I would have to say the number one reason, in my opinion, that YouTube channels fail, this is based on the analysis that I did myself for my own purposes before I ever started a YouTube channel, is not being entertaining enough. Now, it is possible to have a successful channel without having it be an entertaining channel, but if so, you better really, really, really know your stuff. Know your topic matter, because then people are going to come to you from at an educational standpoint. It's like, wow, this guy's got a lot to teach, I'm going to watch him. But what we need to understand is YouTube at large is an entertainment medium, meaning people aren't going to YouTube as a substitute for college or stuff like that. Ultimately, they want to be entertained. Even channels that aren't entertaining, people may have learned about them because those personalities were on TV in some sort of format that was entertaining. Entertainment is a big thing, and it is possible to teach and be entertaining at the same time. The other thing would just be not paying enough attention to your audience. Because it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how great your channel is, it doesn't matter how good your editing is, you as a YouTuber are nothing without your audience. It's a 50-50 equation. You provide the content, they make it something that matters. So if you're not paying attention to your audience and engaging your audience as best as you can, you're gonna fail. Now you might get to a point to where you just don't have time to answer all the questions. I'm already at that point. I lost the ability to answer every question a long time ago. Do the best that you can. Make an effort.
What are some of your favorite YouTube channels and why?
I don't have as much time to watch YouTube channels as you would think, but you know, I watch my friends, I watch the stuff in the Gauntlet, you know, of course I watch Canadian Prepper, but a lot of times I'll search for a subject, not specifically, again, I come back to that thing of listening to somebody just because they're somebody. I'll look for an exact thing that I want to look for, a skill or something, and I'll search that skill and I'll see what's out there. A lot of times I need to unplug from all this Preparedmind 101 stuff, and I'll go on a channel like Emergency Awesome with Charlie and listen to him drone on about comic book movies and TV shows, because that's what I watch in my downtime. You know, if I'm, you know, time of year, in the evening during the week, you know, I'm going to take time. I'm going to watch The Flash. I'm going to watch Arrow, you know, because I like that stuff. You know, I grew up on that stuff. I've got the nerd gene, and you got to take time. You got to unplug for a little bit. You got to take time for yourself to get away from that stuff. So I don't just watch stuff that has to do with Preparedmind 101. In fact, I try not to watch too much of that stuff because I don't want to color my channel with other people's stuff. And also sometimes you can do things subconsciously and you think you have this great idea and you forget, you know, I saw that 4 months ago on this other guy's channel and stuff like that. So I want to try and stay as original and true to myself as possible.
If a person can only have 5 items for an SHTF situation, which specific items should they be? And I understand that, you know, depending on where you live and the circumstances, it's going to be different for everybody. But generally speaking, is there 5 items, excluding food, water, and guns, that people should consider?
5 items for shit hit the fan. I would have to stick with the basics on this, the things that are going to be the most useful to you, the most amount of places. So, and these are a lot of the things that I would call EDC items. So, a knife, preferably a fixed blade knife, a good flashlight, preferably something with a very high high, a very low low, and the ability to be charged via USB without having to pull the battery out of it. I would say a backpack that is very comfortable to you and capable of good weight distribution, which pretty much goes to say a backpacker's backpack, not a tactical ninja backpack. We're talking about great weight distribution, because you need to be able to walk with it, and most of these tactical backpacks just are not set up that way. The other two, I would say, let's just go back to basic survival 101. Doesn't matter what the situation is, your needs are going to be the same regardless. You need air, you need water, you need food, you need shelter, you need medicine, you need tools. So you're going to need some sort of good cover system, some sort of heat reflective blanket like a grab or all-weather tarp if you're a single person. Very versatile. I'm going to be relying on one this weekend, unfortunately. And a fire starter, like a foolproof, bomb-proof fire starter. Not, oh, I'll just carry a Bic. No, something that's going to last a really long time, and it doesn't matter if it's cold, it doesn't matter if it's wet, it's going to work. So I'm talking like a 1/2 inch diameter by 6 inch ferro rod. That would definitely, I mean, that comes out to 5 items, but that's because it says not including guns, water, or food. Water, I would say, you know, you need to have a stainless steel container. So it's kind of a mix between my EDC stuff and basic survival 101.
What are some common misconceptions about gear reviewers here on YouTube?
Common misconceptions, that's an easy one. We're all bought and paid for lackeys of the companies. We're getting all this rich money, we're rolling around naked in big piles of cash, and we're laughing, and we're talking in our secret YouTube forums, and we're like, yeah, I'm gonna make all these stupid suckers buy some Schrades with all my Schrade money and my through night money. It's like, yeah. Really? Most of these companies know that a lot of people will just do the video in order to get the item. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make it glow. I think most YouTubers have some semblance of an honor system. I do see the stuff out there, not a whole bunch, where it's just like, it looks like a commercial. And if it looks like a commercial, people are gonna see through it and they're gonna judge it like a commercial. But at the same time, those people that are taking the products, I just kind of moved away from that myself. But at the time, I could justify it and say, well, by me getting more products sent to me, that gives me a chance to review more products for you. But it's this big catch-22. And to me, it's not worth it. I'm sure somewhere in here we'll come back to how this applies to me and my channel, but we're not getting rich. You got to have a channel, you got to get up around the 100,000 subscriber mark before you can ever maybe leave your job. And even then, you're getting by. You might be slightly comfortable. Nobody's rolling in money. And no manufacturers that I know of are throwing out cash at everybody, because we're small fish in a really large pond. And you could either pay one guy to do it, or you can give 20 guys something for free and they'll do it without asking for money. So dial down the cynicism just a teeny tiny bit, because that's kind of ruining things too.
If a covert Black Op mission snatched you up in the middle of the night and said, we are sending you to Vancouver Island, for those of you who don't know, that's where the show Alone was shot, and you only get to bring one item and no guns, what would it be that you bring?
If I could only take one item to me and I had no other choice and they're gonna drop me off on Vancouver Island, that one item undoubtedly would be a satellite phone. Because let's be honest, I ain't surviving anything with one item. Gotta be realistic here. We can pontificate all day long about, well, this is important, that's important. You ain't surviving with one item. Watch Naked and Afraid. They get 2 items and they struggle. In my opinion, you need a bare minimum In any given survival emergency situation, you need 3 items. You need a cutting tool, you need a fire starting device, and you need a metal container to collect and boil water in. Those are your 3 key things. If you don't have all those, you can improvise some things, but only with a lot of difficulty that comes with it.
What is the future direction of your channel?
I've already started on that. People that watch my channel undoubtedly already noticed. With 2016, basically what I decided to do is a hard reboot. So I'm not concerned anymore with, well, I already did a video on that, or I already did that, or whatever, because a lot of people don't go looking for your old stuff unless they stumble upon it. And my thoughts have changed, my strategies have changed, the things that I know have changed. I've gotten smarter, gotten more practiced, and I want to get back to what I originally wanted to do. Preparedness, everyday stuff, common emergencies, not survival fantasy crap about I'm lost in the woods again and I've got nothing around me, so I'm gonna have to build a hut and I'm gonna have to make a fire. And they could make a whole Hollywood freaking musical out of this lost in the wilderness survival nonsense. Because again, we're going back to the 95 and the 5. The 5% is the wilderness survival stuff. And out of that 5%, you've got people, when they go out in the woods, they know exactly where they're at. So now you're down to like 1% of people that are actually going out in the wilderness into unfamiliar territory to which these fantasy scenarios can actually take place. And out of that 1%, there's even a smaller percentage of people that have these skills and all that stuff. So basically, when we're going off chasing all this wilderness survival stuff, first of all, a lot of people around the world don't live in a wooded environment. And a lot of people just don't go in the woods. So we're either trying to give people useful information or we're trying to get cast for the next freaking reality TV show. And I'm not trying to be on TV. I don't give 2 craps about TV. TV is kind of scary to me. You can lose your way getting involved in TV. I want to come back to the 95%, start with the basics, challenge the status quo, get people thinking again instead of just giving their thinking power to an authority figure because, oh, I recognize this guy. He was on TV. They say he's an expert. I'm going to listen to everything he says and copy it and never question it or never ask, is this the right thing for me? Is this the right thing for my family? What are my weak spots? What can I be better at? What's going to really hurt me? Being able to get a bow drill fire down every time, is that important? You know, when I weigh 300 pounds and I can't walk down to the end of the block without wheezing, which is more important? So I'm coming, my future direction of my channel from 2016 on is I'm starting back at the beginning and I'm trying to stay grounded in reality, in everyday stuff, staying with the regular people, not trying to act like, you know, I'm some sort of guy just because I've got all these subscribers. You know, so what? Anybody can do it if they stick to it. So I want to get back to the basics. That's my direction.
All right, so I want to thank Chris from the Prepared Mind 101 once again for coming on the channel and taking the time to answer these questions. You can go check out a video that I did on his channel a few months ago about the Thermap thermal imaging device. Post a link to that here. And by all means, go and subscribe to that channel and stay tuned for more interviews with YouTubers. Some of them are big channels, some of them are going to be small channels. I'm going to try to do this once every few months, that I'm interviewing someone on YouTube, maybe even more frequently depending on, you know, how many people I decide to network with and whatnot. But stay tuned for a lot more content after the clap stuff, gear reviews. It's going to be a big year for the channel, so I look forward to sharing all that with you. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.
Check out the Canadian Preppers Network blog, an excellent resource for survivalists and preppers.